Today we're going over magnifiers. I've really been interested in magnifiers lately, and I've gotten a lot of questions about them, mainly because of this magnifier setup right here, the Unity Tactical Fast Mount. I get asked about this setup a lot because I show off this gun a decent amount, and I've switched a lot of my setups to this because I really like how it works. I'm gonna explain it here in this video and why I choose this route opposed to the flip to the side. Now, to be fair, I do use the flip to the side still fairly often, and the more I'm testing this Unity Tactical setup is the more I'm starting to switch over my setups, and I'm sure I'll probably eventually switch this one over to this style. So let's go over a couple different things with magnifiers. First things first is there are a ton of different magnifiers on the market. Which ones to choose? Is there a really big difference between the cheaper ones and the more expensive ones? Because you can get really cheap ones for like $100, or you can go really expensive like the EOTech there, upwards of like $500. And why is there a difference? And if there is it worth spending higher money? The quick answer to that is yes, absolutely. Just like anything else, usually when you spend more money, you're gonna get higher quality. Glass quality and your eye box are really what you're looking for in a magnifier, and really the only things it offers, and the size. So the more expensive you go, it seems to be the smaller they're offering them, with also allowing that higher magnification, a really clear eye box and clear glass. What I've found with the cheaper ones that I've tested, you can see behind me, I have quite a few magnified setups because I've really, like I said, been into them lately, so I've been really getting different styles and testing them, is the cheaper ones are gonna have a hue to them. They're maybe not gonna have the eye box to where you can sit back a little bit more. It's more forgiving. You have to really find that sweet spot or shove your eye in, which is kind of not what you want when you're throwing this up. You wanna be able to comfortably chill, and that's why I like these Vortexes and the EOTechs. I have more of the Vortexes mainly because they're more affordable and they still work well. Now, what I found with the Vortex magnifiers, which is here, is they have a hue to them. Is it my go-to if I'm gonna choose one for the best rifle I could build? No, I'd probably choose the EOTechs because I think those are a little more clear in my experience, and the eye box is a little bit more forgiving. But as small as these are and as good as they are for the price, I do like them. I think they're very affordable. I think they work nicely, other than the fact that it has a hue to it and the eye box might be a little bit smaller, but it's still very comparable to the more expensive ones. So I do have quite a few of these Vortex magnifiers. These are the 3x. And the next question you're gonna ask is, why do you go with a magnifier? What is the point of them? Why don't you just go with an LPVO if you really want that magnification? And the biggest reason is for people like me that really like red dots. I think they're quick, I think they're consistent, they're easy to use, and I'm comfortable with them. Now, the reason I wanna go with a magnifier and why I like having magnification is because you are able to gather more information. You're able to get better positive ID at a longer distance, and maybe make more accurate shots at longer distance. And I think those things are really important, especially for like a do-it-all rifle, something that you're expected to do a lot of things. Now, what I don't want is magnification all the time. I don't think every situation says that you need magnification. I really like the ability to drop that down. It doesn't add a ton of weight, and if you don't want it, you don't have to use it. You can just rock your red dot. And to be honest, what I do a lot of the time, if I'm doing something more inside of a house and I don't see any point of having a magnifier on my rifle at that time or that situation that I'm in, I will just quick detach my magnifier off and leave it in the truck and then just rock my red dot. But again, it's a personal thing. If you don't think it needs to be on there and you don't want the excess weight or the addition, you can just quick detach it off, take it away, and you're good to go. But it realistically does not add that much weight, or it is not in the way, especially when you're doing these flip down, which again is gonna be a point I wanna bring up here. I'll show you guys some visual aids from the viewpoint here, because that's what really made me change my mind to switch to these when I saw that. But the biggest reason I go with the magnifier, because I like the ability to go to a red dot to something with magnification and shoot comfortably up to 300 yards. And see what I'm shooting at a little bit better. So as you can tell, I've been showing off some different magnifiers, and there's a lot out there, and I like that. I love having the ability to choose. You think back 10 years ago, you really had a handful of choices of what you could go with, and that was just it. Like, you didn't really have much options. Nowadays, everyone complains and nitpicks absolutely every little thing, and what you don't realize is there's just so many options out there in the market. I think that's really cool that we have different choices to go by. This one here is a Mepro light setup that I've tested here on the Scalil Ace for a while. One thing I don't like about this one, it's a little bit different, is it's a tension setup. So you have to pull down to lift up. I like being able to just rotate over and just pull. So they have the option for both, but this just happened to be the one that I got for the testing that I did. But I just want to show you guys a couple different magnifier setups. Now, one that I think is really cool and a cheaper one that I think is a really solid option if you're looking for something on the cheaper end, but still gives you that clarity and gives you some actual information, is the Primary Arms ACSS magnifier. Now, I have a full review on this if you guys are interested in all the details about it, but you can do range and everything. It's all etched in here. And for the price Otherwise, I think it's a phenomenal magnifier. It's small, it's lightweight, has a good eye box, and the clarity is nice, and can do more than your typical magnifier. So I do think this is a really good option if you're looking for something on that budget side, because the optic itself is like $150 to $250, depending what reticle you go with. This one's the ACSS, and then this one is like in that $200 mark as well. It might have gone up. I'd have to check. I'll put the exact price down here. But this whole setup is a very affordable price, and it works really well. So now going along with the pros, the fact that you can just rotate your magnifier to the side to get it out of the way if you just want to rock your red dot and be able to have the option as magnification. The downside of that is your magnifier now has to go somewhere, and it is obviously going to be somewhat in the way. Is it so much in your way you're not going to be able to use your firearm? Absolutely not. But what I mean when I'm saying that it is in your way is when you are aiming down, it takes your right side of your peripheral vision away because this optic is flipped to that right side. So yes, it's a benefit that if you don't want it, you don't have to have it, but it does, when holding somebody, take away that right side of vision to an extent. Does it take it completely away where you're blind? Absolutely not. But it's something I wanted to mention as a downside to magnifiers is when you're not using it, it has to go somewhere. And that is where these Unity tactical mounts come into play, and where I kind of fell in love with these was because I was rocking and testing these magnifiers and starting to really get into the magnifier game. I went from red dot to LPVO, back to red dot, and then I got into like the magnifiers, and I really started to see the benefits of having magnification, what you can do, especially when I started stretching things out to 300 to 500 yards and shooting. But what I noticed is with my patrol rifle is when I flipped off to the right and I was using my rifle, I would lose a little bit of vision to the right. Again, it's not detrimental to the point where it's like, okay, this magnifier can't work. It's obviously a safety issue, because it's not. It is something you can work around, and it is just a little bit of occlusion. But what I noticed when I switched to these Unity tactical risers is that magnifier doesn't have to be in your way anymore. So when I first saw these, there's three things I thought. One, this is gimmicky and it's just a trend that's gonna go away. Two, it is so high that cannot be comfortable to shoot. And three is there's no way that does not occlude your vision or get in the way of the optic being where it's at. So I was at a class, and one of the guys there had this on his gun. I approached him and I asked, hey man, do you mind if I take a look at your gun and just look through this? We talked about it a little bit. I was able to actually see through it and realize that it does not occlude your red dot at all. I'm gonna show you guys a bunch of B-roll here, doing some POV stuff so I can show you the occlusion from the flip to the right and what it looks like with the flip down. And what I thought would be a con is actually its biggest pro is the fact that you can drop it down below. The height is really comfortable. The more I actually run this optic and red dot setup, I love how tall it is. I think that's really what everyone's going with, especially when you're running night vision, which is something that I use a decent amount. So the height is something that you really want when using different things. And other things like gas masks, if you use those, I don't personally really ever use gas masks, and I have them because I think it's a good thing to have for an oh crap situation and know how to use them, but it's not something I like regularly train with or use at work. But night vision is something that I use a decent amount, and I really just like the comfortability of where that optic is. You don't have to cram your head in. It's kind of like an older style where you want your optics to be real low and you want to cram down. Nowadays, you're trained more of bringing that gun up to your line of sight and sitting more in a comfortable position instead of like crouching and crawling and going through like the old movies. So that's just a thing with the times and things changing, and I'm sure maybe 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, we'll go back to something goofier, like our optics will be like up here and our guns will be down to our hips. You never know where things are gonna change. It always looks goofy and it's always criticized to start with, but then it becomes normal and everybody starts to do it. So that's really my biggest perk with this, is the ability to drop that down and know it is no longer in your vision. It's below to where you're not even looking anyway. It's already occluded by the mount, so it's not like you're occluding anything new. And about the only downside about these setups is they are very expensive. I do understand that, and I'm not oblivious to that fact. I get that these are a really expensive setup, especially when you're coupling it with stuff like that. If you throw an EOTech, it's even more expensive. So I definitely understand how expensive this setup is, and that is why a lot of people kind of stay away from it. But what I will say is if you're really looking for one of the best, in my personal opinion, this is what I would like to go with. I do recommend playing around with a setup like this if you know somebody that has one, or you go to a gun store and you see a setup like this. Unfortunately, gun stores don't usually have setups like this. I wish they did. I really should make a gun store that like just has all these newer, up-to-date, more modern stylings and everything, and just like let people touch and feel and see, because that's so important when you're going to buy new things for yourself. I don't want people to spend their money to then find out they didn't like it. I want people to actually go out and use them and see. So I've actually tossed around that idea a lot. So I don't know if like stores near you do this, but like gun stores near me are not like that. Like you go in there and there's like some like Burris and Bushnell and some Amazon optics, and like that's it. Like there's really no stores near me that I know of that like have a lot more of this modernized style stuff or like these more expensive setups. And maybe there's stores around you that do that, but the stores near me don't do that. So I've tossed the idea around. I thought it'd be cool to open up a gun store or just a place that people could come and try all this stuff out before they buy it. I just don't want to see people waste their money. I'd rather see you spend your money in the best way possible and be really happy with the setups you end up building. I know this video was all over the place. There's just a lot of things I wanted to hit on. I had a lot of questions recently because of the different magnifier setups I've been posting. So I tried to like hit all those questions in one video about magnifiers. I could have done just like one review video, but I feel like it wouldn't have been super long because it's just on a magnifier mount. So I figured just do a broad video going over just magnifiers and setups like that. Now, LPVOs versus magnifiers, that's gonna be a personal choice because that's another question I get asked a ton. Like, should I go red dot magnifier or should I go with an LPVO? And that, again, it's up to you. It's what you like. Me personally, if I had the choice, this is exactly what I'm going with these two setup. I like having the option to flip this over and run a red dot because I'm much more comfortable with red dot within that 100-yard range. I think it's more quick and efficient for me, and then I like being able to switch this over to use at a longer distance if I have to. The LPVOs are still fantastic setups and they work really well, especially if you train with them. That's the biggest thing. No matter what you choose, make sure that you're putting ammo through that setup and you're training and practicing or dry firing, because that is really what's going to make you good to great and be able to be really comfortable with whatever setup you choose. And again, I want to touch on the fact that there's just so many options out there now. We didn't have that 10 years ago, and that's what's crazy to think about is how much people complain nowadays compared to back then too, because like you just had an LPVO and like that was the clarity, or you spent thousands of dollars and you got a really nice one. Now you just have all these broad variety and selection to choose from like $100 all the way to like $3,000, anywhere in between. And like people still complain. It's crazy to me, or they nitpick and everything else. Like there's so many really good options out there for really good prices, and there's amazing options for high prices. So it's cool that there's so much to choose from nowadays. And I think a magnified setup is a good idea for an all-purpose gun. If you're obviously looking for just something to CQB, I can see you completely dropping that and just going with your red dot. But for all-purpose, do everything build, I really think magnification is a good idea. So I hope this video was able to help you answer some of those questions that you might have. That's like I said, I wanted to answer some of the questions I've been getting about this. If you have any other specific questions about this, put them in the comments and I will answer them as soon as possible. And if there's enough of different questions that maybe I didn't hit with this, I might have missed some things, then I will just make another video going over all those things. I've been trying to put a lot of visual aids in here because it really helps, I know, to see things. For me, I'm a visual learner, so it helps being able to actually see it and be like, okay, like now I can visually see it, opposed to like, he's just telling me like, okay, it's in my way. Well, like how much, okay? Is it enough to really make me care? Because this is a cheaper setup because now I don't have to buy a super expensive mount. So I like to put visual aids in there. I hope you guys appreciate that. Other than that, if you guys want to help out the channel, the things I do here, there's a couple ways to do that down in the description, are some links to some discount codes, not links, but they're discount codes from companies that I trust that you can save some money. And there's a link to my link tree from there, Premier Body Armor, Aero Precision, Brownells, any other companies like that, Palmetto State Armory. Using those links when you purchase something does help out my channel and does support me. So I really appreciate if you do that, especially because the more demand I've gotten here recently, the more projects I've got going on, is a lot more ammo and demand and optics and accessories I have to purchase. So it helps a ton. Just to be completely transparent with you guys, that stuff helps me a lot and I really appreciate that support. If not, I just appreciate you guys liking, subscribing, and commenting. Those things help as well, and just helping with algorithms and things. And then the companies that support me and the channel are Howitzer, Brownells, and Hold Up Display. Howitzer is a company that donates 5% of proceeds to charity, and they make some great clothing, and they've actually collaborated with me on my own t-shirt. If you guys are interested in that, there's a link in the description. Brownells is a company that you could save 10% on orders of $150 or more using code TA10. And if you guys buy like a rifle setup through them, because it works on guns as well, a handful of them, like there's some guns, I think SIG like doesn't work with Glock, but like most guns on their website, you can get the discount through. But if you buy like a $2,000 gun, you save $200, and then you can put that $200 for the flashlight, and then you save $20, and it snowballs, and you can really save a lot of money and really help with your builds, and that's always the goal. And then Hold Up Display makes these amazing mounts, which cannot wait to finish this gun room and the vault area here. So other than that, guys, thank you so much, and I appreciate you all.